Imagine a country that does not think in years or elections, but in centuries. A country that plans its future not for tomorrow, but for the next 100 years. A country that quietly builds power while the world argues and looks away. This is the story of China's 100-year plan for world leadership. A long game that began decades ago and is still unfolding right now. While many nations change direction every few years, China follows a single roadmap designed to restore what it believes is its rightful place at the center of the world. To understand this plan, we must first understand how China sees history. For thousands of years, China viewed itself as the Middle Kingdom, the center of civilization, culture, trade, and power. Other nations came to China, not the other way around. But that belief was shattered in the 1800s during what China calls the Century of Humiliation, a time when foreign powers defeated, divided, and controlled parts of China. That pain never disappeared. It became the fuel for a promise made by Chinese leaders that China would never be weak again. This promise is the foundation of the 100-year plan. In 1949, when the People's Republic of China was founded, the long journey officially began. The goal was simple but massive: rebuild China, protect it from foreign control, and one day return it to global leadership. The plan was never announced in one single document. Instead, it was built step by step through policies, speeches, reforms, and long-term goals. One of the most important ideas behind the plan is patience. China believes power is built slowly. First comes stability, then economic strength, then technological power, then global influence. Everything must happen in order. The first phase focused on survival and unity. China needed to feed its people, control its borders, and prevent collapse. Mistakes were made, lessons were learned, and over time, the country stabilized. The second phase began with economic reform. China opened its doors to the world, but on its own terms. Factories were built. Foreign companies were invited in. Cheap labor turned China into the world's workshop. While other countries enjoyed cheap products, China absorbed knowledge, skills, and technology. This was not accidental. It was strategy. China traded short-term profit for long-term learning. Roads, ports, railways, and power plants were built at a speed the world had never seen. Poverty dropped. Cities rose. A middle class emerged. Economic power became the engine of the 100-year plan. But money alone was not enough. The next phase focused on control and direction. China strengthened its political system to avoid chaos. The government kept tight control over key industries like energy, banking, transport, and communication. Private companies could grow, but the state always remained in charge. This ensured that national goals came before individual ambition. At the same time, China invested heavily in education. Millions of engineers, scientists, and technicians were trained. Universities expanded. Research centers multiplied. China understood that the future would be decided by brains, not just factories. Technology became the next battlefield. China set clear targets to dominate fields like artificial intelligence, 5G, robotics, space technology, biotechnology, and quantum computing. Programs were launched to reduce dependence on foreign technology. Domestic companies were supported and protected until they became global competitors. Some failed. Others succeeded beyond expectations. Today, Chinese tech companies compete directly with the biggest names in the world. But the 100-year plan goes far beyond technology. It includes global influence. China began expanding its presence across Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America through trade, loans, and infrastructure. This became known as the Belt and Road Initiative. Roads, railways, ports, and power plants were built in dozens of countries. To some, this looked like help. To others, it looked like control. But from China's perspective, it was about building connections and influence. Trade routes create dependence. Dependence creates power. China did not need military bases everywhere. It needed partners tied to its economy. At the same time, China worked quietly within global institutions. It joined organizations, followed rules at first, learned how the system worked, and then slowly began shaping it from within. Chinese officials gained positions in international bodies. Chinese standards began spreading globally. This is a key part of the plan: change the system without breaking it. Military power was also part of the roadmap, but not in the traditional way. China focused first on defense, then regional strength, and finally global reach. Its navy grew rapidly. Its missile technology advanced. Cyber warfare and space capabilities were developed. The goal was not constant war, but deterrence, making sure no one could threaten China without serious consequences. China learned from watching other empires fall. Overreach destroys power. Patience preserves it. Another critical part of the plan is internal control. China believes that unity is strength and division is weakness. The government invested heavily in surveillance, data systems, and social management tools to maintain stability. The argument is simple: without order, development collapses. Critics see this as control. Supporters see it as protection. Either way, it allows China to move in one direction without internal resistance slowing the plan. Culture and narrative are also tools of power. China invests in media, movies, social platforms, and education abroad to tell its story its way. Confucius Institutes, cultural exchanges, and international broadcasting help shape how China is seen. The goal is soft power, influence without force. Control the story, and you control perception. As China grows stronger, it becomes more confident. The plan enters its later stages. No longer just catching up, China aims to lead. This includes setting global technology standards, leading climate initiatives, shaping digital currencies, and influencing global supply chains. China wants the world to rely on its systems, its markets, and its rules. The final stage of the 100-year plan aligns with major national anniversaries. By the middle of the 21st century, China aims to be a fully developed, powerful, and influential nation. Not just rich, but respected and feared. Not just strong, but central. This does not mean ruling the world with armies. It means being unavoidable. Every country must deal with China. Every global issue must include China. That is what world leadership looks like in the modern age. But the plan is not without challenges. China faces aging population problems, economic slowdowns, environmental damage, and global pushback. Other nations are becoming cautious. Supply chains are shifting. Technology restrictions are rising. The world is responding. The 100-year plan is entering its most difficult phase. Success is not guaranteed. History never is. Still, what makes China different is consistency. Leaders change, policies adjust, but the direction remains the same. Restore national strength, prevent humiliation. Secure the future. Whether one sees China's rise as a threat or an opportunity depends on perspective. But one thing is clear: China is not improvising. It is following a script written decades ago. While others argue about the next election cycle, China is thinking about the next century. This long-term thinking is both its greatest strength and its greatest risk. If the plan works, China reshapes the world order. If it fails, the consequences will be just as massive. The story of China's 100-year plan is not finished. It is happening right now, quietly, steadily, step by step. And the world is standing inside it, whether it realizes it or not.